Okay, we're live. Okay, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 191. My name is Haim Cohen. Tom is right there. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
And we're taking a little different approach. So we usually talk about really, really detailed security. But what happens, we call this threat model. Your threat model is your 2-year-old, just a passerby. Basically, what happens if you lose your phone, but you really want to find it again? Like it falls between the seats or you leave it at the stadium and you just don't want a passerby to access your data. Like you want them to give it back to you. So you're going to compromise a little bit of security to do this. So we have just a few tips on different avenues that you can go. And it's not necessarily for a phone, but for a laptop or your car, if you lost your car, little things like that. So this Tom, you get that?
Yeah.
Talk about this?
Indeed.
Okay.
I think we can do this.
So what started was one of my students left their phone in class, and this happens all the time. And I tell them, I said, look, nobody here is going to steal your phone unless it's better than their current phone. But anyway, most people at my school, they're not out to like steal a phone, but it has happened. So I tell them, obviously lock it, so they come to me. If I find the phone, I put in the drawer and I do the good thing. So they come back and say, hey, did you find the phone here? And I say, why, yes, I did. Can you describe it? Which you should do with anything. Don't give any descriptive markings. You find a wallet or whatever. Just say you found a wallet. Let the person explain to you what's in there. Don't go crazy and be like, what's your debit card like verification number? But let them be able to tell you something that they reasonably can. So I said, okay. And what I usually do is unlock the phone for me. But what I like to do is I try to unlock it just to see if I can. And unfortunately, about a third of the time, I can unlock a student's phone by guessing either the pin or the what's it called? The little the pattern, or sometimes they don't even have anything unlocked. And then I get back to them and they go, how'd you unlock it? And I said, you should have a stronger password than the Kanye West password.
Or you tell them, well, you shouldn't just leave your fingerprints laying around as you're sitting there with your fingerprint dusting kit and recreation system.
So and a lot of times they just say, I just don't want my brother or whatever else to guess it. Like, I don't really care. And I get that. I totally get that. Like, I understand it. And I say, you know what? Having something like this student had 6 zeros, which is slightly better than 4 zeros.
Slightly better.
But when everyone's on 4 and you have to guess 2 more, what they're going to do is they're going to go to the easiest way possible. Because I don't actually 4 I understand, 6 I don't. 7 makes sense. I can deal with 7. I can deal with 10 because you put phone numbers in. But 6 is okay. What else do I do? So I do it. So what I think everyone else does is they find the 2 closest numbers to their thumb and make it that, just so they can complete the 6 and move on.
Yeah. So your threat model is your annoying sibling for the purposes of this exercise. A lot of phones will allow you to put messages on the lock screen now. So if somebody does find your phone, you can, or hopefully, they can email you or they can call someone else. Please don't put your own phone number on the lock screen of the phone. Because if they try to call it, they're holding your phone. Now, I totally get if you've got like a Google Voice number and it rings 17 devices, including every computer you're on. Like, all right, fine, I get it. But if you put your own phone number for that phone on the lock screen of your locked phone, doesn't really help you too much. So, a friend, brother, parent, wife, whatever, you can put somebody else's phone number in there and say, hey, hopefully they call and say, hey, I found a random phone and it said to call this number, and they can try to figure out who it belongs to, right? They've got a better idea than some random person who, just found your phone.
So I do that. I put my email, have my phone number. I think I put my city. Look, again, if I lose my phone, I'm in a position where I can get another one. But it is a royal pain in the neck because phones are now $1,000. And if you lose your phone, guess what? Not only do you have to pay off the phone you lost, now you need another phone. And so how much is your data really worth at that point? Especially if there's an option that allows you to find it. So I do that. The other thing that you want to do, and I tell them, is did you try Find My iPhone or Find Android? What does Android call it? Find My Device.
Yeah, they call it Find Device.
So what that does is, and I'm shocked by the number of people who've never enabled this. So if you want, pause this podcast now, go to either Find My Device on Android or Find My iPhone on iOS and enable it. It's one click. It tells you what to do, and it will tell you. I think I like Google's implementation better because there's a website that you can go to, which we'll get to in a second. But what it does is it rings your phone. So if somebody takes it, it rings your phone, no matter if it's on silent or whatever. Now, yes, a bad guy who's actively trying to steal your phone, the first thing they'll do is turn it off. But if it's on and you're trying to find it, it will ring. And it will ring loudly for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so even if the device is on silent, it will start blaring noise. Now, this does mean that you shouldn't just let everyone have access to your account so they can do this to you, because I could see it causing some rather annoying situations. But you also have two other options. You've got the Secure My Device, which logs your phone out of your Google account and locks the device, just totally locks it out. This is helpful if you have lost your device, right? You're paranoid. You're like, there's a lot of connected services here. I don't want them getting access to my email. And you hit not the big red button, but the big yellow button that just locks things down until you specify, hey, go ahead and unlock this so I can get back into it. Then there's the big red button, and this is the nuclear option. This is by the way, when you hit the big yellow button it's not really a big yellow button, it just says Secure Device. When you hit that, Find My Device will still be able to find your phone. It's not like you're throwing it away. The Erase Device feature, it's the big red button. When you hit that, totally wipes the device, just does a secure wipe on everything. The phone has no data anyone wants on it. After that, however, that device can no longer be located by Find My Device. It's just gone off the planet. So if you immediately lose your phone, don't wipe it if you're going to try to locate it or get it back after the fact, because you're not going to be able to, right? Hitting the Secure Device option is probably the best way to go if you haven't completely given up on finding it. So it also helps. Now, crooks are getting wise to these systems. They know that these systems exist, and frankly, an iPhone has a greater chance of being stolen than most Android phones, purely based on price. But there have been instances, especially early on in Find My iPhone, Find My iPhone's history, where somebody has literally led cops to a thief's door, saying, "Yep, here they are. This is exactly where the GPS puts my phone, at this guy's apartment. Book him." So,
basically, I like to Find My Device. And like you said, I didn't realize this. When you do erase, that's it. Like, it's gone. So locking it, especially if you have a strong passcode, is, if you're going to have the chance, if you're going to have the chance of getting it back, is probably the right thing to do. Like, you leave the stadium or whatever it is, and you just want to, you want the ability to try and get it back. Maybe somebody got it. Maybe a good Samaritan got it. Something like that, where you can get it back. You just keep it locked until something happens, is probably the way to go. And if you can't find it after a few days, and hope is lost, I guess erasing it is fine, and that's it. Again, the other problem is these have probably a 1-day battery life. That's the other thing. So if it's on, you really have about 1 day to get it to locate it before you're done.
Now, we talked about putting messages on the front of the lock screen, and we're going to fully admit that, putting your email address, especially the email address of the account that's on the phone, on the front screen of your locked phone, does decrease your security posture. If you were going to go crazy, you'd create a totally separate account and have alerts go somewhere else, so you'd be notified that, hey, if I ever get an email at this random email address that no one should ever know and I don't use for anything else, it means somebody found my lost phone. You could do that. You could go crazy. But is it really worth it? It's up to you. It's up to your threat model. What we're talking about today is just keeping your annoying brother or sister out of the device. Again,
just to piggyback right off that. So if you have your normal email address that you check all the time, somebody knows that's it. And by the way, the code that's going to be to go in is going to be sent to that screen. And by the way, text messages, SMS-based two-factor, will go right on the lock screen. And usually you can see it from right there. Again, but again, if that's you, Android has that ability to hide these notifications like that. It's just one of those things that you have to be aware of. So that's, I mean, for the phone, you have to weigh those options. So for me, I like the fingerprint, Face ID. All these things are the right answers if you're worried about your neighbor, your kids, whatever it is. If you're worried about a 3-letter agency or the law enforcement, I guess we found out now that they can just hold the phone up to your face and unlock it. I don't know what's going up with that, but
if you're trying to run from 3-letter agencies, you probably shouldn't be carrying a cell phone at all. Keep in mind that the baseband processor is still the most insecure and most central point of any of these devices, right? If the government really wanted to find out where you were attached to a cell phone, it's pretty trivial to do so.
It's well, there was a news article, I don't know, a couple days ago where law enforcement held the phone up to the perpetrator's face and unlocked the phone. And again, I don't know if that's gonna hold up in court, but it looks like court is saying biometrics is not protected under the Fourth Amendment. So just be aware of that. I don't know if they can just do it while you're in handcuffs or you're arrested, but
I have heard of occasions where, people in the back of cars, now they're not supposed to do this, right? But they have been forced to unlock their phones for law enforcement before. That said, if you wanted an easy way, at least on newer versions of Android, to disable the biometrics, you can hold the power button, even on the lock screen, and there's an option called lockdown. When you hit that, the fingerprint sensor is, it's not like disabled, but when you try to use it, it just pops up the pin screen or whatever other lock screen you have. It totally shuts down any kind of fingerprint access. Now, I'm not sure if iPhones have, a similar feature, but in the absolute worst case, even if you're on an ancient version of Android, as long as the device is encrypted, just turn it off, right? If you can't be fiddling with your phone, in front of whoever's, might ask you to unlock it, hold that power button for about, 10 to 15 seconds. It'll shut the device off. It's kind of like an emergency power off for most electronics, and it's off.
Or fail the fingerprint sensor a bunch of times. If you can fail it 5 times by purposely putting your wrong finger. I mean, we talked about this. On an iPhone, make your failure 1 and only use your pinky. So if you had to be asked, your thumb wouldn't work. People would get your thumb, which is what they assume. Remember, you have the right to remain silent. They can put your thumb on the phone and it will fail. But again, if you're hiding from police and everything else, this is not the podcast for you right now.
No, this is like the most basic level of security here. We're protecting from petty thieves and annoying people who want to break into your phone.
So we hear that. The other thing is, so then the next thing, I guess, are laptops. Basically, we have the same idea. It's you have your laptop. We talked about this months ago. Don't just leave your laptop when you go to the bathroom. Even if you're at Starbucks, you trust everyone there. We know it's really obnoxious, but take the laptop with you. They're not that big at this point. Like, put it in your bag.
Yeah.
Leave your coffee there. Make a little bit of a mess so no one will sit there. Go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, and come back. Because I go to these places and I just see people get up and just walk away. My students, when they put their laptops back, there's like 10 phones just on the desk that someone can just swipe. And then what? Remember, I don't have cameras in my classroom, so how can I prove that so-and-so stole your phone? I report to the administrator, but that's about it. Like, you're really going to go through all that? Take your phone with you. Take your laptop with you. I never understood that.
Like I could understand, maybe like if you're not in a semi-trusted place, like leaving a laptop on a desk while you go across the room, like, okay, it's big, it's heavy, you don't want to like physically tie it to you. But the phone, I mean, this is a super teeny device. Just throw it in your pocket, right? Super easy.
I mean, when I go to the bathroom for my classroom, oh, go ahead.
Don't leave it unlocked and on a table. Like even if you're like typing a message and you just haven't finished it yet, like don't just sit down, like close it. You can get back to it, lock the screen. I've seen it. I've even done it a lot, right? Don't just leave it unlocked.
Look, it's you're at your desk at work and you want to get up to go to the bathroom. I mean, again, your office culture will dictate that. At least lock your phone if you at least trust the people around you. And I never understood that. People just leave it there and walk away. Just lock the device. I take everything with me, but again, the threat model is a little different. The next thing are we said it with the laptops. Now, I have a really stupid screensaver password because again, I'm just trying to prevent my kids from mashing on the keyboard. To be honest with you, they may mash a better password that's like completely reliable than actually typing in a coherent sentence, mainly because they're not old enough to spell correctly yet. But again, most passersby, they'll try the easy 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll try A. They'll try backslash. They'll try something simple, and after 3 or 4 times, they'll give up and move away.
If they're expert hackers, they will look under your keyboard for sticky notes.
But yes, so or on the top of your laptop, or I mean, you could probably even put a screensaver that say the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will hold slightly more water. But anyway, it's so you do that. Find My Mac and there was a story with Find My Mac, but Find My Mac is also a good thing. I don't know if I would turn it on. If I lost my computer, I think I just rather it wiped.
Yeah, my computer has got way too much information on it. That said, most, if not all, computers today, right? I'm not going to say most, if not all. I will say a lot of computers today, right? Chromebooks, Macs in particular, push you to enable File Vault on first boot. They will be encrypted by default or encrypted with best practices. So even if your laptop goes away, like honestly, if somebody stole my laptop, right, I'd be angry. I really would be. I wouldn't be happy about the situation, but as long as the device is off, they didn't get any of my data. Sure, they got my hardware, and I'm super annoyed, but they didn't get any of my data.
And again, I just said that I'd much rather my laptop get stolen, but then I think the phone has that much data, but all of it's in the cloud for the most part. So they have to get into my phone and then they have to do all that. On my laptop, a lot of it is potentially local, but I much rather if they take my laptop, I just want to encrypt it, and if they gave it back to me, they gave it back to me. With that said, I only have a Chromebook. Like I literally have a $300 Chromebook, and I have I have a desktop at home. So if you're stealing my iMac, there's a bigger problem. You're not just stealing that. We have bigger problems.
Yeah. If somebody breaks into your house and then travels up flights of stairs to steal a big giant computer that's all embedded into a big giant monitor off of your desk, you probably have bigger problems at that moment.
So, yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind while we're talking about lost devices, it's not just device loss that can happen to you, right? You could also have a non-functioning device, right? You could wake up one morning and your phone just blew up overnight. I've had it happen before. You want to make sure that your data, you can get that back, right? Let's talk about the super important stuff, right? Photos. Make sure that you're backing stuff up to Google Photos automatically, and make sure that you're backing up your photos to iCloud automatically, right? You don't want to have to set up backup strategies or plug in a phone, right? You're never going to back up if you have to do it. Backup has to be automatic or it will never happen. It's been the case forever in all of computing. So if you've got, all of your stuff syncing to the cloud, it's super easy on iOS, on Android. It's really hard to get something not syncing to the internet in some way. I do know that you can turn off syncing photos. Don't do that. Just turn it on. If it complains about being out of space, either select one of the free plans if they're available, or you might have to pay $5 a month, and that's fine, right? These are your photos we're talking about. This is pictures of your friends, family, loved ones, stupid memes from the internet. You can't afford to lose these.
Especially with the EU copyright law that may get rid of them. Exactly.
You have to keep an archive of memes locally, just in case Europe decides to go full war on the memes.
Look, it's and again, we say this, the number of people who don't turn on these free services are, I mean, every time somebody loses something, I lost everything. Well, did you have Google Photos? No, I never set that up. And to be honest, this is where we credit Apple. Apple has all this built in. They do their best to make sure that all this gets set up. And you may say, this is really annoying, I just want to use my phone. But making you set up a PIN, making you sign up for iCloud, making you do all this, making you put in credit card number, they're trying their best to help you when you need it. Because again, you don't just decide on every Friday night to back up. You need that backup when you forgot to do it. So you're hoping for that. The other thing I heard about cameras. So if you have if you have an actual camera like I do, I have a very expensive actual camera. Somebody said on the SD card, take a photo of your information and lock that photo so it can't be formatted. So if someone's looking to see it, they can find it, which I've done before. I found someone's camera and I wish that they would have done something like that. Now, I admit that I don't do that, but that's also really helpful. On the flip side, we've heard about encrypting SD cards for when you have a real threat model, but having one file on your SD card that says where you are or how to find you is not the worst thing in the world.
Unless you're trying not to be found.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. There was a whole article in one of the magazines about they want SanDisk and all these companies to do encrypted SD cards, like encryption on the camera itself. So you'd have to get the software and everything else. But
cameras have just from a pure technology standpoint, cameras have a hard enough time trying to get their internal processing and the storage fast enough to be able to take, 10 pictures in a second when you hold down that button, or to take 4K video at 60 frames per second, right? Those devices have to act so fast, extremely scary, blazing fast, especially for the form factor, and maintain a decent battery life. You want to add encryption onto that? Sure, you can do it on the die, but now you're paying an extra $200 a camera.
Well, again, what's our threat model? So
my threat model is not taking secret photos with my DSLR. My threat model is.
I'm not worried, but I didn't even think about that until someone said it. You're a journalist going inside an enemy regime, and maybe this is, I don't know. Again,
I think honestly that's the first time I've ever argued against encryption in the history of this show.
Look, I think it's stupid, but some people may want it. I don't, because look, if I'm taking pictures at an event, I clearly had to get somebody's permission to take the photos. You're walking around with a big camera. So if you care about encryption, you can do it on your phone, which you can then lock. So another reason maybe now we ditch the cameras and just go straight to our phones, because they'll get uploaded and everything else. What we need to do is write our own private cloud that will upload everything while you take the picture, so you can disable it.
There are those, and if you do have a DSLR, and not specifically related to phones or finding devices, but if you do have a big standard camera with a standard SD card slot, I do know that there are SD cards that have essentially little computers inside them that you can program them to upload your photos to Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud, whatever. And as you take the pictures, as long as you have a network connected to the camera, it will in the background start uploading everything for you. So really cool idea.
The problem is it's a really cool idea. It never actually really worked well.
I've never actually used it. So
it was called I think the brand name was iFi, and the idea was awesome, but just in reality, it just never worked. And with all these like upload to your like my Sony camera has an NFC on it, so you can touch the phone and the NFC and makes its own ad hoc connection and do it. Then you find out the photos are not full quality and everything else. Come on. The iFi had GPS. That's what you need. You want the SD card to GPS coordinate. There's all these things. But basically, if your device has some sort of password, look on your device, see if they have some sort of locate feature, because it is a device. Do all the and you know what? Turn it on, because again, you're not hiding from Google trying to spy on you. You're trying to use their features to actually help you out, whether it be Find My Phone or wipe a device or any of those other things. Now, Tom, have you ever used any of those locators, those tile locators?
I have not. To me, they kind of represented this dream of if everybody had it, and if everybody had the app, and if everybody was running the app, and if it was always scanning, and if you happened to find a tile and it didn't move afterwards, you could help somebody find something they lost. But that's a lot of ifs and a lot of variables that almost never coincide.
So I bought one off some advertisement on a different podcast, and they promoted it as, oh, if you're within Bluetooth range, which I understand how Bluetooth works, 30 feet, which is about where I lose my keys or my wallet, I'm good with. That works. Turns out it didn't really work. Like the battery was always dying, and these things need to be foolproof. Like you have to put it on and forget it. And if it has a low battery, it needs to warn you like no tomorrow that it has a low battery, so you can fix it. And then it said, if you're like you said, within the range of another one and someone's looking, it can use your connection. And I once got a notification. Someone found their device using your Bluetooth range thing. And that got me all freaked out. So I think it created a false sense of security. So I much rather think about what I'm doing and avoid those third party, the tile type things or the beacon type finders, and try to hopefully all devices have some sort of location mechanism. If it has a GPS and some sort of signal, even if it's Wi-Fi triangulation, is still better than nothing. And I want them to obviously do more with that.
Yeah. Now, again, this isn't, like absolute security. There's no such thing as absolute security. Security is not binary. Right. If you're trying to hide your location from Google or from law enforcement, or your threat model is sufficiently advanced, enabling Find My Device or Find My iPhone is probably not for you. If you're trying to hide every piece of your personal information from your life, even if it means losing a device and never getting it back, putting information on the lock screen might not be for you. But for everyone else out there that doesn't have a sufficiently advanced threat model, I think these are really helpful tips that can really save someone if they're having a particularly bad day.
It all happens to us. So that's the problem. You're really secure and you have all this happen. You have to ask yourself, who am I hiding from? Because if you're the company can afford another $800 phone. But it's hard for an individual to say, oh, I'm going to make sure I'm going to tinfoil hat it, nobody can get in. And then you lose your phone because you accidentally left it in the bathroom and a good Samaritan found it. And now it's wiped and everything else. You're kind of stuck. They're trying to actively get it back to you and they can't because of that. So ask yourself, how far do I really need to go? Now, off air, we talk about how Google and Apple and Amazon and Facebook are stealing all our data. But guess what? For the most part, we're all using it and we're just trying to figure out who do we need to trust and who do we not need to trust. But we still need to have a life and we still need to get things done.
So enable Find My Device.
Yes.
It's helpful.
We will leave you with that. And we are just about out of time. If you want to join our WhatsApp group, and you may say WhatsApp steals your data, we have this discussion all the time. You're welcome to add your 2 cents, tweet us, find us. We will get you in. We can't just post it publicly. Otherwise,
we get the Bitcoin spammers.
Yes. So anyway, we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
See you, everyone.